I owned an Airbnb property for several years, but eventually decided to stop due to the increasing stress of managing it alongside my regular job. While Airbnb offered the potential for higher earnings, the demands became overwhelming as bookings increased. Initially, my wife and I were excited about the venture, especially since our property was located in a high-traffic vacation area. The routine involved ensuring everything was in order between guests, hiring cleaning services, and promptly responding to messages and emails. Typically, interactions with guests were minimal, limited to a few texts for check-in and check-out updates. However, a peculiar and unsettling incident occurred that led to us reevaluating our involvement with Airbnb. One evening, a young couple, as we believed, checked in. Everything seemed normal until the man contacted me, claiming there was no water in the house. Concerned about their comfort, I rushed over, only to discover an eerie situation. Upon entering the house, I noticed 2 cars in the driveway, raising suspicions. As I investigated the water issue in the basement, I found that the main water valve had been deliberately shut off. While fixing it, I felt a growing discomfort, and my unease peaked when 3 older men emerged from the basement. They seemed unrelated to the supposed guests and questioned if the issue was resolved. The situation escalated when I spotted a gun on one of them. Deciding to leave quickly, I made my way upstairs and exited the property. Upon returning home, I informed my wife, and we decided to contact the police. It turned out that the individuals were not the guests we thought and had used a stolen credit card for payment. The motive behind tampering with the water supply remained unclear, leading to various speculations. Perhaps they aimed to avoid payment or intended a more sinister plan, but the abrupt release in the basement only deepened the mystery. Following this harrowing experience, we altered our approach, never visiting the property when guests were present. Eventually, we decided to discontinue Airbnb altogether and opted for traditional long-term renting, putting an end to the uncertainties and risks associated with short-term hosting. A few years ago, I embarked on a solo journey to the picturesque coastal town of Mendocino, eager to escape the hustle and bustle of daily life. Having predominantly experienced vacations with family, this was my first venture into the realm of solo travel. Excitement mingled with a hint of trepidation as I scoured Airbnb listings for the perfect retreat. Surprisingly, the Airbnb options far exceeded the allure of nearby hotels, both in terms of charm and affordability. I settled on a quaint cottage nestled on the outskirts of town, boasting breathtaking ocean views and promising solitude. The prospect of unwinding in a tranquil setting was irresistible, even if it meant being a bit removed from the town center. Arriving on a sunny afternoon, I received a warm welcome from the cottage owner, who shared local insights and handed me the keys to what would be my sanctuary for the next week. The cottage exuded rustic charm, with its exposed wooden beams and large windows framing the expansive ocean beyond. It was a far cry from the bustling city life I was accustomed to, and I relished the idea of immersing myself in the calming embrace of nature. The initial days were idyllic, exploring coastal trails, indulging in locally sourced cuisine, and reveling in the simple pleasures of solitude. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting hues of pink and orange across the sky, I would retreat to the cottage, savoring the tranquility and relishing the solitude that solo travel offered. However, the serenity took an unexpected turn one evening After a day of exploring, I returned to the cottage, looking forward to a quiet night. As I settled onto the couch with a book, a subtle unease crept over me. It was as if the very air around me had shifted. Trying to shake off the feeling, I turned on some music and immersed myself in my reading. As the clock neared midnight, I decided to call it a night. That's when I noticed it, a faint creaking sound, barely audible over the soothing melodies playing in the background. My senses heightened, and I strained to discern the origin of the sound. Suddenly, the music stopped abruptly, and the room plunged into an eerie silence. Heart pounding, I scanned the room, and to my disbelief, the front door stood slightly ajar. Panic set in as I grappled with the realization that someone had entered uninvited. In that moment, the solitude that had been my solace transformed into a haunting isolation. Summoning the courage to investigate, I cautiously moved through the cottage, my senses on high alert. The ocean breeze whispered through the open windows, carrying an unsettling chill. Gripping a nearby candlestick, I inspected each room, half expecting an intruder to materialize in the shadows. To my relief, no one was found within the cottage. As a wave of anxiety began to ebb, I quickly secured all entry points, including the once breezy front door. The remainder of the night was spent in a state of hyper-awareness. The solitude I had cherished now tinged with an undeniable vulnerability. The following morning, I contacted the cottage owner, recounting the unnerving incident. To my surprise, they expressed genuine concern and assured me that no one else should have had access to the property. Although shaken, I decided to continue my stay, chalking it up to an isolated, albeit disconcerting, episode. In the days that followed, the incident lingered in my thoughts. The breathtaking vistas and coastal serenity now shared space with a lingering sense of unease. Despite the owner's reassurances and the absence of further disturbances, the specter of that mysterious night cast a subtle shadow over the remainder of my solo sojourn. As I bid farewell to Mendocino, I couldn't shake the memory of that inexplicable intrusion. Solo travel, once a source of liberation, now carried a nuanced weight. The allure of Airbnb's unique charm had been momentarily eclipsed by an unsettling reality, the thin line between solitude and vulnerability. Last summer, I decided to stay in a quaint mountain cabin in a magical town. I was in search of peace and quiet, and this house, nestled in the heart of nature, seemed like the perfect place for a serene getaway. Upon arrival, I opened the door to this charming house, nestled in the forest. It was quiet and tidy inside. I explored every corner, surrendering myself to the comforting atmosphere of the wooden floor creaking beneath my steps. It was around 8:00 p.m., and I decided to sit quietly on the couch, watching as the sunset painted the sky with its hues. Suddenly, the doorbell rang, startling me from my contemplation. I approached the door and heard two men whispering outside. Holding the door shut, as there was no safety lock, I called out, "Hello, who's there?" A man outside responded, "We're here for the Airbnb. Can you open the door?" I, a petite and easily frightened young woman, was confused and alarmed. I yelled back, asking what they meant, not comprehending the concept of being here for the Airbnb. The man explained that they had booked the place for the night. Realizing there might be a mistake, I insisted that I also had a reservation and urged them to contact the owner. The man didn't seem pleased, but I heard one set of footsteps walking away, while the other man asked again if I could open the door so we could discuss it. Almost convinced, I hesitated with my hand on the doorknob, thinking he seemed believable. However, a gut feeling urged me to play it safe. I told him my husband would be down in a few minutes to sort it out, hoping this would catch them off guard. There was no response from the man, and as I waited, I peeked through a small window in the curtain. The man I had been talking to was facing his car in the driveway, and beyond him, a chilling sight awaited. A group of about 5 people stood farther down the driveway, almost hiding, as if waiting for a signal. They all wore some form of face coverings, and though I couldn't see the other side of the door, I assumed more people were there. Knowing the city I was in, it dawned on me that this was likely a gang. Completely horrified, I backed away from the door, full of panic, trying not to hyperventilate. I rushed to the bedroom to grab my phone and dialed 911. The operator instructed me to stay quiet and calm as they dispatched a unit to my location. I stayed on the line, still hearing footsteps all around the house, feeling like I was surrounded by a pack of wolves, ready to break in at any moment. Taking my phone into the bathroom with me, I continued the call, attempting to remain calm. The operator assured me help was on the way. I stayed on the line, hearing footsteps until the dreadful sound of wood bending and snapping came from the front door. I cried profusely, trying to muffle my mouth with my hand. I listened as a group of people ran inside, opening doors and cabinets. One approached the bathroom door, trying the handle and yelling, "Here," before walking away. The group continued to loot the house until sirens were heard in the distance, causing them to scatter. By the time the police arrived, the intruders had left, taking all my luggage, and my car's window was shattered and looted. One of the officers sat with me to discuss details, explaining that they had been dealing with problems of large groups or gangs breaking into homes recently. Their primary goal seemed to be robbery, rather than harming residents. While they left me alone in the bathroom, knowing I wasn't a threat, the experience was still terrifying. Although it likely had little to do with staying at the Airbnb that night, it has left me anxious every time I stay at an Airbnb since. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more horror tales and chilling experiences. Share your fears, experiences, or request in the comments, and let us continue to send you into terror in our next video. Remember what might be lurking in the shadows of the night. Share your chilling moments and join our channel. Sweet nightmares.